According to your website, you didn't start out as an animator.
True.
What did you start out as?
I started out as a kid. I was a kid who liked to draw, and I was interested in art, and so my parents enrolled me in art in high school, actually starting in what we used to call junior high. And I thought I was a pretty good artist, and so I was interested in cartoons. I got interested in comic books in the 1960s when I was in high school, and started reading comics. I didn't really collect them. I just kind of read them and studied the art, and started drawing them. And I didn't really know how to draw, but I didn't find that out till I got to college. In college, I majored in commercial art, we used to call it. I guess today you'd call it graphic design. But I was going for an MFA in fine art. So it was kind of a weird degree, master of, or a bachelor of fine arts in commercial art, yeah. And didn't graduate. I dropped out. I came out to Colorado in my third year of college and founded a studio. And we were doing comic stuff, science fiction illustration, and comic book kind of stuff, and mostly starving, but I did a lot of comic stuff. I'd been a publisher from when I was in high school. I had published comics-related magazines, publications, homemade comic books, fanzines, I guess you'd call them.
Oh,
And
okay.
I published interviews and stories and actual comics. And when I got into college, I learned how to draw, and that was very helpful. Taking life drawing classes, it's a good thing I had a regimen of fine arts, because otherwise I wouldn't have learned how to draw. And really got into the underground comics thing while I was in college, and afterward, that's kind of what I pursued, and found myself in the underground comics world for a number of years. Published a journal called Cascade Comics Monthly, which was a journal of underground comics. 1980, 81, I got interested in animation again. I had done some animation in high school and college, just little films, little experiments, pretty much, and got involved in a music video project, and kind of lost interest in comics and publishing, and I had a small press publishing company. I just kind of shut it down. Pretty much went with my gut, which was where my heart was at the time, which was animation, and founded a little animation studio, which lasted about a year or two, I'd say. And that's how I got into animation the first time. And after my animation studio failed, I went to work for somebody else. Went into management in the family amusements business, and I was able to use my skill in art and animation and so forth to in the marketing part of that job, and it helped me, to go up the ranks of management and so forth. That I had these marketing skills and graphics and so forth, and learned a lot about business during that time. And in 1994, I finally founded ARG Cartoon Animation, and had it for almost 17 years now, and really enjoyed it. So that's pretty much how I got into it. Long
Oh,
story.
no, it's actually quite fascinating.
Well, thank you.
Uh, I'm inspired to be an animator myself, and I like to hear how other people started out.
I took kind of the road less traveled. Definitely. I'm a self-starter. I'm somebody who's always been an entrepreneur. As I said, in high school, I published small press, publications, and sold them in the hallways, And so in college, I continued that. I ramped it up. I got subscribers. I contacted more famous artists. I published the work of Frank Frazetta, Mike Kaluta. Published an interview with Ray Bradbury. I had Von Bodie in there. I had Barry Windsor Smith, a lot of guys from the studio, and those guys were my idols. I was really big into comics at that time, and the point is that I was an entrepreneur. I was publishing a magazine, and I wasn't making any money on it at the time, but I was getting into real printing and so forth, and really learning everything I could about the media, and that carried over into animation. I'm pretty much self-taught when it comes to animation. Just picked it up and read books, and when it came to publishing, I would go to print shops and hang around and make a pest of myself. I'd drop off a print job and they couldn't get rid of me. I was there to see every aspect of what they were doing. I was learning. I ended up with my own printing presses. So with animation, it was natural for me to get my own camera and my own stand and build our own light tables and so forth, and find a way to get cells punched and so on, and get things shot and so on, and really learn about first film and then video and then computers. I'm just a bootstrapper that way, and that's one way to go. Most people go to school and they learn enough to get a job, and that's a good way to go, because you're not going to go through the school of hard knocks, which I did. Being in business for yourself is very difficult. It can be very challenging. I'm lucky that I've been tenacious enough that I've made it. Our company has about 600 clients. We've done about 40,000 digital animations at this point. So, I would definitely recommend the school and then a job way to go, as opposed to, with an internship maybe in between, which is really a job,
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is cool. All right. When do you start working with computers as an animation tool?
Well, I started, I'm lucky in that I got hooked on video games in 1980 and 81, and that was about the time I was getting into animation. And I think really my interest in video games originally was the animation. I was fascinated by the fact that you could walk up to a machine and put a quarter in it and be immersed in a computer game, a computer animated world. And to me, the movie Tron kind of said it all, even though it was just goofy. When Hollywood meets cyberspace, you get silly space, and this has been demonstrated again and again.
Yes.
And that's same with video games. It's I loved video games, and I was frankly addicted to them, and it was a very expensive addiction because the computers and the consoles weren't there yet. It was all pumping quarters into these arcade games, but it led me to, once my animation studio had failed, it led me to a career in video games, And by 1985, I had a computer, and I was doing very rudimentary computer graphics. 1987, I was introduced to the Macintosh. I said, hey, this is the way things ought to be, graphical user interface, mouse, etc. By 1991, I had an Amiga.
Yes.
It's like, okay, I took my cells, my film, my peg bars, my white gloves, my camera, put them all up on the shelf. I was digital at 1991. That was it. And it wasn't quite there yet in terms of the resolution and so on. But, I stuck with it, and gradually the quality, the resolution and so forth improved. And by the late 90s, we were doing things in, Photoshop and with Macintosh and After Effects and, Adobe Premiere and things like that. So, once again, I'm self-taught. Never took a computer class. They didn't even have computers in the classrooms when I went to college. But just knew that was the future and just got on board with it, probably before it was ready, But it's obviously the way to go. If you go from film and cells and film, go to that to just video and cells. It's a huge leap in terms of immediacy, in terms of being able to get it right, because it's immediate feedback and so forth. With computers, it's a quantum leap. you know. Obviously, you know, you with 3D, you have to do, you know, all the modeling and all that before you get much feedback. But with 2D, it's just immediate. You draw a scribble, you animate it, there it is. It's on the screen. Dump it to tape, or you know, render it to, you know, to ping sequences or whatever. You know, make a QuickTime, and it's there. It's all there. You know. So you know, we use PCs, we use Macs, the Amigas. We can't get rid of them, you know, but we don't really use them. You know, it's we just still have them because we can't let go of the data that's on them. You know, the files that are on there, pretty much. It's part of our history.
I have to ask. I'm a big Amiga user from back when too.
Sorry.
Actually, I love them. My Amigas still work too.
Great. I wanted to meet an Amiga geek, somebody who could help me get all this data off these hard drives. I've actually dumped several Amigas overboard after pulling the hard drives out of them. So maybe you can help me.
I definitely.
But you know, I mean, Macintosh is great. Unix is great. Windows, I tolerate. You know, I've got a lot of software on Windows and so on. Look, new iPad. Hey, all right. You know, I love computers. I'm not prejudiced against various. You know, I love all computers. You know, and they've all helped me at one time or another. I even worked on an Alias. Alias Power Animator on an Indigo 2, which is Unix with X Windows. When I worked on Johnny Mnemonic, the Keanu Reeves movie.
Right.
You know, but all I knew how to do was crash it. You know, I just couldn't really, you know, do anything. We mostly worked on Macintoshes on that. Anyway, next question.
Okay. What were some of the first? Well, I think you already answered some of that. Some of the first programs you worked with.
Worked with Basic, and then I worked with Mac Paint, and then I worked with Deluxe Paint. Started out with Deluxe Paint 3. Then I got into goofy Windows junk, and then I learned Photoshop. I think before I had Photoshop, or about the same time, I had Corel Paint, Corel Draw, and so forth. But Photoshop was difficult to learn, but that was good. I had used Deluxe Paint 3 and 4 for years. Then I got into ULEAD GIF Animator. Used it to convert, you know, convert all our Amiga animations into animated GIFs. You know, the early days of the web, and I was the king of the GIFs there for a while back in the late '90s. You know, our website started getting millions of hits a day, based on having all these animated GIFs on it, original animated GIFs, you know. Then we got into Flash. Flash was really aggravating. I had gotten into Director before that. And Flash is pretty much it for me. If I use a program to draw or paint, I'm probably going to use either Flash or Photoshop, frankly. And I'm probably going to be doing it on a PC, because I just don't have that software on Mac. For post-production, we use After Effects and Final Cut Pro X. And what else? We use Maya, but I don't use it personally. I'm just not a 3D guy. I'm two-dimensional, what can I say? But a lot of my people use Maya. They also use Blender. Some people use Toon Boom. I think the best programs out there right now are probably Maya and Toon Boom for cartoons. We just got set up, when I set up the studio, we just got set up with Flash, got into Flash in a big way, and we bought a couple seats of Maya, and we're very invested in those programs. And Toon Boom, it's been demonstrated to me that it's superior to Flash, but we just really can't afford to get into it right now, just because of the economy, and, you know, it's a big investment. Especially for Harmony. That's what we need, really, is harmony, and that's big money.
Right. Yes, yes.
Right.
Okay.
I include that in anytime I quote for a feature, I include that in the budget. Harmony,
Harmony.
Harmony, yep.
Is that a Pacific program or? Oh, it's
many thousands of dollars, per seat.
But it sounds very intriguing.
It's great. It's great. It's the best. What can I say?
Okay. Now, I've seen you've done a lot of big screen, small screens projects on your website. Why set up a studio in Colorado Springs and not like in, Hollywood or California area?
Well, I'm basically a Colorado Springs guy, and I was going to do it here or it wasn't going to get done. And I think I've been very fortunate in that the world of movies has become more forgiving of people not being in LA or New York or whatever. And the world of advertising is forgiving of us being in Colorado Springs. We can do, Madison Avenue animation. We can do Hollywood animation. We can do it here in Colorado Springs, and they don't bug us too much. We have an LA phone number. We have a New York phone number. We have a New York fax number. And we're a virtual studio. Frankly, only about about 5 or 6 of our staff members are in Colorado Springs, and I would say roughly 25 or 30% of our total crew is in Colorado. They are everywhere else. There's one person in Israel. We had somebody in England. We've had people work with us from India and from, Canada and so forth. And we have a virtual studio setup where, people don't have to be here. With Skype and with screen sharing and with file, transfer and FTP and everything else, there's no great advantage to being in the same town. Unless you can't, wake somebody up to get them back to work. If you were in the same town, you could drive over there and bang on their door, I guess. But other than that, I don't see any real advantage of being in Hollywood. To me, it's nothing but pain and suffering, to be in Hollywood. And this is the way that the industry has changed. So we're lucky, that it worked out for us. I think the first big break that I got, and I was asking myself the same question, why aren't I in LA when I first started the studio? But the first big break I got was the World Wide Web. We got on the web early and we got on it big. And we pretty much figured out the future of the web, which was links. So when Google came along, we had thousands of links to our website. And our website was already getting millions of hits. But when Google came along and pretty much took over the world, we got 1 billion hits in a 20-month period.
Wow.
And so, it's brought us all kinds of Fortune 500 clients. I mean, most of our customers have come from the web. So that's a long answer to a short question, I know, but you don't have to be in LA anymore. I mean, if you're trying to get started, you have to go where the jobs are. Yes. You can't just say, hey, I'm here, deal with it. I'm not coming there. If you want a job, you got to go where the job is. But if you're starting a business, I don't think there's any great LA imperative, to the whole animation world anymore.
That's actually quite cool. I never thought of it.
I'm not saying you're going to be able to, graduate, get a job, and not have to move from Colorado Springs. It's likely that you'll have to move.
Well, I'm planning to.
I mean, because if you're going to be an entrepreneur and start a studio, it's going to be tough.
Right.
Because the last time I started a studio, I had screen credits on 4 movies. I had TV screen credits. I had lots of, credentials. And it was extremely tough. I mean, I was starving, okay? But I was lucky that the web came along, and actually the first thing that saved me was I started doing web design. I kept the doors open with web design, and then I got into hosting, and then I got into internet access and registering domains and selling DSL and all this other stuff that was totally unrelated to my initial mission. I was just chasing dollars at some point, and I made millions that way. But finally I really had to get focus and get back to where my heart is, which is cartoon animation. So in 2008, I sold all those internet companies except for CityStar.com, the city portal sites, because I have an attachment to them, and I was able to monetize the ISP and hosting companies and web design and all that stuff, and do a non-compete and get a lot of money to keep going with where I'm at here with the animation studio. It was 1 year after I founded this studio right here, this brick and mortar studio. It's a 3-story building on the old Alexander Film Company property, which is the same property that KKTV is on. They're in one of the old sound stages. There are Quonset huts around here. There are buildings that used to be full of camera stands and optical sound and storage of hundreds of thousands of animation cells, and everything. And it's nice. Nobody bothers us here. Nobody knows this is here. We keep the doors locked. So.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
I love my life. What can I say?
Excellent. Well, I mean, that's the ultimate goal for most people, I think, to do something that they love to do.
You bet. You got to go. You can't if your work becomes a job, you need to find another thing to work on. Yeah. Or another place to work.